All right, fellas, here we are back in another Pokemon Horizons video. This is episode 99, and Orla that can't fly, I think is what it was called. This is just I mean, I keep saying it like every episode. This is one of the best episodes they've ever made. We're building up. We're building up. I want to go over it when it ends. I want to, and I mean, obviously it'll kind of come together once this episode ends, but I almost cried during this episode. It was insane. I love it so much. The series is just so good. There's nothing else that can be said. The series is just like too good. So we open up here with a Wingull and like the ship here. They arrived in the Gala region, and they're gonna be trying to find Orla here. We got that from Murdoch last episode. She's in the Gala region. We know about, for the most part, like what she's doing. Says that they gotta hop between buses and trains, and if they had the Brave Asagi or Brave Olivine, they could just fly straight there, but obviously they do not. So that's going to be a central theme of this episode is the airship. That's kind of what they're here for. That's kind of what they want, the airship. They say that they're looking forward to seeing Orla, and then it pans over to Orla working on an engine, doing her job. And you can kind of see here, you can see her Pokemon, Eliot and Metagross here. You can see her looking kind of down, but obviously very focused, it would seem. And it pans to the start of the episode, and it says a flightless Orla and ... Which I'm gonna assume that and is kind of there's a lot that and could be referring to. It could be kind of like reflecting her current like emotional state. It could be referring to the Brave Olivine. It could be referring to a lot of things, but we'll find out. But you can definitely see Orla's expression here and how she looks. So we can go to the Pokeball factory here with Karna. I do not remember what her English name is. Okay, it seems like her name is just the same. Her name is just Karna all around. But anyway, we did meet her back, a few dozen episodes ago. I don't know however many episodes ago it was, but it was, like probably 30, 40, 50 some or something like that. Where she's at this Pokeball factory, she makes custom Pokeballs, stuff like that. Pretty cool character, and Orla was definitely interested in her. She says, alright, let's give it 100% again today. We're running out of time. I can see Orla here working on a machine. We're going to have these ready for tomorrow, and we don't know what they're working on. This will come into play later, but this is something that's definitely interesting if we look into it a little bit more. And we can also see, I wanted to point this out, that there is the Sinistea and the Poltegeist. I get confused between Sinistea and like Sinischa and Poltegeist, whatever. But yeah, Poltegeist. So these are the ones from the Brave Olivine, the ones that were originally on the ship. So it seems that this is where they have kind of found their home to be. And you can see that Karna here is falling. Still very clumsy, as we have known her character to be, for the most part. She says that Orla should get back to her own work and that she's got it rough. There's new things for the recent order, right? And they asked them for short notice, and they keep rushing her. So they've been working on something. Something has been keeping them very busy. Obviously, Orla likes to stay busy, and this is something that will pop up later. She says that she'd rather be creating Pokeballs and not making weird things exactly as told. It says that can't you file that away under part of the job. So this is something you don't really understand in the episode itself, or like kind of pick up on. I think it's a weird translation thing, but it's more so her saying that she does not want to be making like some specific patented product that is like uniform designed. You're pumping out mass product of it. She wants to be making custom creative Pokeballs. That's kind of what her explanation here is on that. And Orla just tells her, can't you file that apart as part of the job? And she calls Orla a stick in the mud. And she doesn't know what she means by that, but she says that she never cuts corners with her work, and that she's the same way. She wants to refine anything she makes until she's satisfied with it. And then she drinks from the Sinistea accident. But yeah, so she doesn't like to be confined making what she's currently making. She wants to make Pokeballs and stuff. So she's clearly not too content with the current work that she's got. But anyway, she says the delivery date is tomorrow, and someone had actually came to the door, and we can see that is actually our protagonist quartet, trio plus ult. I don't know what you want to say. And hell, it could be even more if you count all the Pokemon. You got Cat, Meowscarada, Quaxwell, Crocodile, Sableye. Yeah, a lot of Pokemon here. Anyway, so Karna's surprised to see them, saying that it's nice to see them again, saying that her, what is actually... Floragato, there it is. Floragato and Fuecoco had actually evolved, and Dot introduces herself as well, because she never actually met Karna. And then Alt, of course, as well, with his mega strong Sableye, of course. Says that that they're here to see Orla, and that she's inside. So they do get that reunion here. This is the reunion between Orla and the trio. We'll just say trio. I'm not going to include Alt much in that. He's kind of just a featured member for now. Though I do like him, of course. Says they haven't seen each other in forever, how they've been doing, looking a bit more mature, and that Roy's got taller, Dot's got a nice makeover, so, and they do acknowledge again that it has been about a year since they have last met. Just want to really hammer that in, set it home. And so Old is kind of a new friend of theirs. Of course, he's hiding in the bush. He doesn't interact well with women, you know, kind of what they end up going for here. She says that it's glad that he's energetic, but why he's all the way back there, and Roy just kind of brushes it off, saying that's how he is. She's surprised to have seen them. They do to let her know that Murdoch had let them know that she was here, and that she shouldn't keep them standing out, and why not to come in for tea. All kind of just gets rid of all the formalities and the etiquette of it, and just says, just tell her why they're here. Dot tries to tell her that there is an etiquette to this type of stuff, but they just end up going on and telling her that they have reformed the Rising Volt Tacklers, and that the effects of Lockliam are showing up over the world, and the explorers are involved, and if they can bring all of that to light, then they can get back the truth of the Rising Volt Tacklers. Same mission, same thing they've been spouting for a while, right? But they gotta hurry and gather all the evidence they can, and that they want Orla to make them an airship, and that they bow. And so Orla gets the pretty in thought kind of expression on her face with the airship. And this is a cool frame. This is a very cool frame where they can actually see, you can see the look between Freed and Roy here, both with Cap on their shoulder, and seeing how similar they look. And obviously the request that they have both made to have an airship built, since Freed was the one that made Orla build the Bravest All-Align initially. She tells them just to ask somebody else and just leaves. They do say that they need her help and that they wonder what happened to her. And Alt says, what are you dragging your feet for? Get in there and ask her again. Liko tries to tell him that it's not that simple. You have to just clear the air, obviously let Orla cool off. And of course, Alt doesn't get these type of phrases. He's pretty dense-headed. It's pretty funny. It makes sense, though. So Cap ends up noticing something and runs off into the forest. And Alt ends up drinking the Sinisty tea, and well, he clearly does not have a good time with that one. So a little fun little gag there. But of course, big thing here is that they go through the brush and they end up finding the Brave Olivine. The Brave Olivine was never dismantled or anything like that. It was kept here, where Orla had said she was going to disassemble it, dismantle it, destroy it, whatever you want to call it. But no, she didn't. It ended up staying here. Brave All-Line heard it was disabled, but she had hid it away. And so we can actually see almost all of the Pokemon that we have not previously encountered it with other members of the Brave Rising Volt Tacklers, the Brave All-Line. I guess you could say they're members of it, but whatever. The Rising Volt Tacklers, like how Molly has the Mousehold family, right? And how Orlid herself actually has Sinisty and Poltegeist. See, I get confused, but we can actually see here that the other ones have been just staying on the Brave Olivine while it's been hidden away. You can see Shuckle, the Alolan Muck. There is Orla's own Slugma and Carkol there with bringing berries. Noctowl, of course. They're all here. So we do see Karna come out, and Liko just does ask what's going on, and Karna asks for her to be able to explain. She says 1 year ago that Orla had come here alongside the Brave Olivine, asking her to be hired at her factory, and that she just didn't pry on why Orla was doing that, but told her that she could stay as long as she liked, and took her on to help her out. So Orla did end up telling Karna what happened at Mount Kamuri in Wakwa, saying that what happened, the Rising Volt Tacklers had disbanded, and that the ship was left to serve here as a den for the Pokemon. When they're awake, they head out into the forest gathering berries, and obviously they come back here, right? So it does seem that she didn't dismantle it just for that purpose, for the Pokemon, which is obviously what, the right decision, right? Makes sense. It says that when they're with Orla, or right now here with you guys, they sure seem a lot happier. So it seems the Pokemon are definitely a lot, not worse off, obviously. I mean, they still got their home here, but it's like they definitely are saddened to see the Rising Volt Tacklers just, kind of be disbanded and not around anymore, and would definitely prefer it if the Rising Volt Tacklers would reform. And so it's obviously not just the thing with Liko, Roy, and Dot wanting to reform, and the Pokemon want that as well, of course, which, doesn't really need much explanation. Says what's stopping them from going on adventures with us and Orla aboard the Brave Asagi. She says that she has no intention of flying this ship or going on adventures ever again, and forcing her to go with them is not really a no-go, but she says that Orla has been locked away her true feelings about this deep down, and not she'd be eager to admit it, though. So that is something that we it's a good thing to explore. I'm really happy to be able to discuss it once we actually get to that point. But Orla has definitely been hiding and kind of suppressing how she feels about everything. obviously, given that Freed was likely one of the closest people to her, like, obviously the protagonists are some of the most affected people out of all this. Like, everyone's obviously super affected by it, but Orla and Freed were childhood friends, so it's like a whole different level of somberness, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm not sure. So Alt asked them if they're going to stay here, and they said they're going to try again tomorrow, saying that Miss Carter said there was an empty cabin that they could use out back. And so Alt just says, all right, whatever, don't have a choice, let's go camping. So Liko wants to know how Orla feels, and we get the mid-card section here with Liko and with Orla. So this, I'm not sure if this is a plan Liko has, but we'll go into it here in a little bit. So back to Orla with her Elekid. Elekid can see that she's very distracted. She's just apologizes to Elekid for that, and Karna tells Orla to at least hear the children out, and Liko and her friends say that they went out of their way to go and see her, so the least she can do is kind of talk to them about, you know, everything and why. She said that she's focused on work and that she wants to have everything finished today. She says that she works too much and don't have to push herself so hard. She says, this is the big one, if my hands stay busy, I can keep my mind clear. Staying busy in your work, like really diving headfirst into your work, is a very common coping mechanism a lot of people employ when like bad things happen in their life. I've done it for sure. It's been very fruitful, and but obviously a lot of people use it as an escape, a way to not have to confront how they feel. And that is obviously not healthy, not usually at the very least. So this is something that Orla has been doing, obviously not super healthy for her. She says that she's grateful to Karna. Having the chance to work at the factory for the last year has really let her put a lot of unnecessary stuff out of mind. We can see her custom Pokeball there to the far left. I believe she had gifted to Orla. I'm quite certain. I'm not too sure though. Says, you know, putting it out of mind, is that really the way to go? And that gives Orla an expression she's not really too sure like how to think about. It says that the customers will be here any minute to pick up the delivery, and that she can go get some fresh air because she'll handle the delivery and stuff like that. So she tells Orla to go kind of just walk things off and probably consider her words. And obviously she is right. Is really like suppressing how she feels the best way to go about it? Probably not, right? So she does walk into the forest with Elekid, and we can get a bunch of flashbacks here where we originally see Freed. Obviously this had been in its own episode a while back, again 40, 50, 60 some episodes back where we originally got this. Have Freed telling her to convert the Brave Olivine into the best airship in the world. Well, the Brave Olivine. Well, convert the Olivine, or was it? What was it initially called? I don't remember, but whatever. Convert the Asagi into the best airship, the Brave Asagi, you know. You get the cool name, the fun name. Freed says that he knew it, she was the greatest mechanic, and that they are the rising Volt Tacklers. And then, of course, fading to the rest of that, Cap, look after everyone, and then we see Freed, of course, vanish into the clouds, still having not once been seen. That man is gone. It is insane that we have not seen one inch of that man in this entire series. Like, they're not even hinting that he's alive. They're just not telling us a thing. It's insane. But you can obviously see her look on this. This is one of the looks that in my opinion, it's pretty rare to see it kind of look like this in Pokemon, outside of maybe like the protagonists and stuff like this giving it. But one of these characters clearly being so distraught and stressed out over what happened is definitely very beautiful to see. It's really nice. And you can see Elekid there, of course, you know, very concerned for her. And she says she thanks it for obviously being there for her. I say it's so strange. As much as she tries to forget, I always come back to the airship. So obviously she wants to forget everything that happened. She wants to just move on, but she does have the like commitment to the airship and maintaining it and having its upkeep. We can see our protagonist trio there, and they call out to her. And she said that she believes that she had declined their request yesterday. And if you intend to ask me to lend you the ship, I can't do that either, and I don't intend it to fly it anymore. So Liko just apologizes. She cuts her off a little bit and apologizes. And Orla asks her what that's about, and she says, and that they say earlier, we went on board the Brave Olivine without asking. And she says that they don't really need to apologize for that, but they say that everything was immaculately serviced and that she's been doing maintenance on it, hasn't she? Which, of course, you know, it's her job to do maintenance on it. If you leave the machine alone, it'll rust and break. Maintenance is essential. And so Leo says it's because you're hoping you'll be able to fly it with everyone again someday, and that they want to know how she really feels, and that they aren't going to demand that you let them use the ship, but if you maybe want to fly again someday too. And then she just cuts them off. They kind of like laid it on thick with her. I don't know if this is in their intention to get her to kind of like burst out her feelings like this, or like in this fashion at the very least, but they did want to at least hear how she feels. And well, they're gonna get it. I don't know if it's really in the best way, but they do get it. She says, "That's enough. I made the brave Olivine on Freed's request, but Freed's gone now and he's not coming back, so it's all over now." And we get this scene. This, obviously, that is probably one of the more impactful things she's probably ever said in the franchise, is that Freed's gone, he's not coming back. Again, they were childhood friends. They were some of the closest friends probably out of everyone on the Brave Olivine, the entire crew of the Rising Volt Tacklers. They were probably some of the closest in terms of like human on human relationships, right? So her losing one of her best friends, obviously through that, is extremely traumatic for her, especially probably even worse considering it was her airship. You know, the capabilities of that ship and, you know, everything like that. She probably somewhat blames herself for Freed falling off of that ship. You know, no security mechanism in place, and the fact that they had to do that at all to begin with, everything. She probably blames herself for that, and she really just feels a lot about it. That's why she had to bury herself in her work so much. She couldn't really confront the guilt of everything that happened, likely because of it being her blaming herself for it, even though it for the most part isn't, right? But she's gonna probably feel that way. And we get this scene. I took multiple screenshots of this scene to kind of like portray it, but you can really see her breathing like this. This is a solid 10 seconds throughout the episode. This just Orla's shoulders going up and down, and you can hear her breathing. She's clearly very distressed and distraught about it. It's really, I would say it's really good to see something like this out of one of these episodes, out of Pokemon, to see a character actually react like this. Like, these are real people, these are real characters, and it's very beautiful to see them like this, even if, of course, it is sad. And so you can see Cap here, he climbs aboard the Brave Olivine, and they say, "To me, it doesn't feel like Freed is gone. Even now, a year after it all, reforming the Rising Volt Tacklers with Roy and Dot and taking the first step once more, when we're on our adventures, I get the feeling that this is the same path that Freed would have chosen." And so Orla thinks about her words, the same path. Roy interjects, saying Freed wouldn't just leave the Lockwood be, he would have chosen to keep the promise to Mr. Lucius and to get back the truth of the Rising Volt Tacklers. Which is why it feels so much like Freed's still right by our side even now, and we're going on these adventures with him. Even though Freed is gone, obviously the spirit of the adventure, the spirit of what they need to do, what they should be doing, is not dead. Which Freed's probably not dead, let's just be honest, though they really don't know that, given that it has been a year. But those words kind of do break through to Orla a little bit, and she can see Cap on the I guess the front deck of the Brave Olivine there on the steering wheel, like he always does, or on the back of the chair, I believe, which of course is a very comforting sight to see. So it is nice. And it does get Orla thinking, saying that she's just been dwelling on the past and never thought about anything like that. Has she really been stuck in a place? But I'm no longer ... We're left to our own thoughts on kind of thinking what she was thinking in this moment, like what her real thoughts are behind this. It's really interesting to get a moment like this, for her to be stuck in like this headspace for so long, burying herself deep in her work, to come out of that headspace now, and kind of obviously wanting to do what she's been doing. She's been maintaining the Brave Olivine. She's been subconsciously doing these things. Obviously, you can use the guise of repairing the Brave Olivine to be like a mechanic's job, or like to keep the Pokemon safe or anything like that. But obviously deep down, Orla has very likely wanted to know Freed's alive. Freed comes back. He wants his airship back. We go on adventures. We do all this stuff. She wants this. She likely wants someone to kind of break her out of that and how she's feeling in order for them to go back on adventures and have fun enjoying themselves again. And I think that's really beautiful. So there is some sort of explosion in the background that they do hear. They ask what it was, says that it came from the garage and that they'll go check it out. We can see this little frame here of Orla's feet and her like vision kind of swaying, which again kind of reflects how she feels at this moment. She's very likely confused. She's likely, you know, trying to process how she's feeling about this, what she really wants to do, just as why before this wouldn't. And then Metagross comes out of its Pokeball and says, well, it obviously doesn't say anything. It probably could. It's got telekinesis. It wouldn't make sense. But she thanks her Pokemon for being there for her. Metagross and Elekid, they they come out and support her and like try and get her like back on the right path. It's kind of what these Pokemon have always been for. We've seen it a lot with Meowscarada, especially in Liko, and that Meowscarada can kind of put Liko back in the right headspace and what to do. Metagross and Elekid have done the same thing for Orla here in this case, and so she gets on top of them to ride back to the garage or the Pokeball factory. So Ult tells them that they're awfully persistent and to get lost already. The trio come up and ask them what they're doing, and Karna says that Ult said I mustn't hand these over, and he tells them to take a look, and it is strong sphere cases. This is the thing that it was referring to earlier when she says, oh, I don't want to make something that is like, she doesn't want to make these things that are like super uniform in design and like just a massive processing factory effectively, right? And she wants to make custom Pokeballs. This is what she's referring to, what they were making. She was making the mold for strong spheres. So yeah, that's very, very bad, obviously. Obviously, she likely doesn't know what they are. And Orla says, that's right, the strong spheres were being made here. And so Orla drops down on Metagross and they ask what was wrong with it, or what was wrong with that. And Roy explains that they are the strong spheres using Lockwium to cause harmful effects to Pokemon, forcefully making them power up so that they can suffer, and we get the flashback to the battle with Coral and Sidian, where we could see the cracks in Garganacl's feet and the frost going all over Glalie body. The two businessmen say that they've undergone safety tests and they do not cause any problems, besides which we've only asked you to manufacture exterior parts. And so Karna just interrupts them saying, we're very sorry, but we'd like to withdraw from this job. And so they're kind of surprised by that, and she says that why wouldn't she just trust what they have to say? Obviously, showing that Liko and Roy's word does mean a lot to her, and that obviously they're good people. I mean, makes sense. Plus, I became an artisan because I wanted to put my heart into making Pokeballs that connect trainers with their most cherished Pokemon. So if you expect me to make things that are bad for Pokemon, you can just forget it. So it's very interesting to see that not only is this an episode that's going to be putting us into Orla's headspace, like bringing back the Brave Olivine potentially, and like showing that interaction with the crew like 1 year after the fact. It's also still bringing into the Lockwium side of things, where it actually makes a lot of sense that the exterior molds would have been designed here, not designed, but rather processed and manufactured here. So that's super interesting to see. I'm glad that they thought about doing something like that with this. I would have never thought to have made that. If I was like a scriptwriter or something, I would have never thought about something like this. So this is awesome. Very awesome. It says, and then some people in the background pop up saying, we cannot let that stand unchanged, and it's these two. We saw this in the last episode's like little promo imagery piece for this episode. We don't know who these people are, but they are explorers. And they say that everything that the trio had just said is total nonsense, and to not allow them to be misled, that strong spheres are very useful items for traders, and they have our guarantee as the explorers, guardians of the world order. Good God, that sounds dystopian, I suppose, is the best way to put it. But either way, these fun little people here, I guess. Says I mega don't like the sound of that, bunch of rotten hero wannabes. And so Karna just reinforces telling them to please leave, and says Liko and Roy leave it to them. So they do recognize Liko and Roy's names, likely from the other members of the Explorers, saying that they were the members of the Rising Volt Tacklers, bad people, yada yada, you know, brainwashing stuff as usual. They were rising from the Rising Volt Tacklers, and they see that they remain the same villains they always were, ready to stand in their way yet again. And so Roy gets pretty pissed off about that. Dot tries to get him to calm down, and they say that they cannot abide this, and they pull out their Paldean Tauros, which, by the way, I've never caught these. I've never caught the like leader herd of for Paldean Tauros, where it's got the flames and because I've got, I think in my version it would be the water variation. I've got Violet. I'm pretty sure it would make the most sense to be that anyway, but whatever. They pull out their Paldean Tauros, which are the fire and water forms. It says, we'll eliminate the Rising Volt Tacklers for the future of people and Pokemon and retrieve the manufactured parts for the strong spheres. And so they end up using their own strong spheres on their Tauros to power them up. And so Orla does notice that she knows the effects of Lockwium, having been around Terapagos and the rest of the Rising Volt Tacklers so much. She knows what it is, obviously. And so we are prepped to fight, and that's where we get the to be continued. Great episode, fantastic. Orla's entire little, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown, because it wasn't, but like her whole thing saying that like Freed's gone, Brave Olivine's done, you know, capiche, kaput, dead, right? It was really powerful. It's good to see her headspace. She, again, is one of the most impacted people by Freed's vanishing, I want to say. I don't want to say they all think he's dead, but like him going missing and not being around anymore, she was one of the most impacted people, especially considering she braved she built the ship. She could have put in the, or at least she thinks she could have put in like the proper mechanisms to avoid this, even though there was no way she could have predicted something like this would have happened. But it's very likely she does blame herself in some aspects of it, or at least very hinted at it, considering she is one of the most affected people, putting herself in work for the entire year in order to just kind of like suppress her emotions, to suppress how she feels. Of course, not being healthy for her to the point where, you know, even Liko, Roy, and Dot bringing it back, she can't really even talk about it straight without feeling so much emotion well up inside of her, which obviously is justified given how she feels. But it's good to see her, at least it's good to see her finally confronting that, and that makes this episode so beautiful. And even better twist that the fact that this is the Pokeball factory that we've seen a while back, that we thought that this would be like a one-off thing for the most part. Like, we saw this Pokeball factory, Orla got the gift of the Pokeball from Karna, right? It was nice, it was cute, you know. You can make your unfun little ships out of it, you know, have a good time. But most people probably thought it was like more of a filler episode, or like a point A to point B type of thing. But the fact that Orla not only came back here, brought the place back into existence, but they gave it an actual purpose in the fact that they are making parts of Locklium spheres, strong spheres, is also extremely good writing. And it's good to make use of the same location, same character again, give us a more fleshed out version of Karna's character. I love it. It's actually beautiful. So great episode overall, amazing to see. And so, of course, it's time for the Mega Evolution thing with Charizard this time. Mega Evolution you've been waiting for, Mega Charizard X. They don't actually show Mega Charizard Y. The one whose body turned black and whose flames turned blue is Mega Charizard X. The more battle experience it gets, the more of those flames. And, well, it probably gets stronger because, well, Needlethink's costume caught on fire. But yeah, so that's about all we see out of that. I hope that Freed's Charizard Mega evolves. That'd be so cool. Anyway, so this is the preview for the next episode, which none of this really impacts me too much, except for the last 2 frames that I took pictures of, which we'll get to. Powered up Paldea and Tauros, we get to see the fight, Meowscarada and the, I don't know if it's going to be Meowscarada and Crocodile, or if it's going to be all 3 of them effectively. It looks like it's all 4 of them, anything. I mean, this is a great frame here. We got all 4 of them fighting. Yeah, we can see it there. Sableye and Quaxwell working as a team there. Fighting against the Tauros, and then of course Meowscarada and Crocodile. The duos, we love to see it, but obviously the strength of those, by the way, this is a great frame. The strength of the strong spheres obviously is a lot for these Paldea and Tauros, but look at that, the merging of the purple and blue and purple and red, or purple, red, orange. Look at the aura, it looks so damn cool. It really does, but obviously not healthy for the Tauros, so it's pretty bad. Next episode, we've got to do this. He's right, we're doing this in order to get back the truth. And we can see how Orla is looking at Metagross here and probably about to say something, and how they're having a meal right now. And so to be continued on the next time on Pokemon, we the Rising Volt Tacklers. The reason this is so important, this, not only is that just a great episode title, it tells us a lot that's about to happen in the next episode, which drops tomorrow drops tomorrow when I'm recording this, but I'll do the video probably Saturday. Is that is episode 100. If I mean, you can tell from the episode that, like, the title of this video, it's episode 99. The next episode, the reformation of the Rising Volt Tacklers, is gonna be at episode 100. That's so impactful, and this frame of Orla is just so beautiful. It's so good to see it. She's back, or at least maybe back. We'll see. Oh, it's so good. We the Rising Volt Tacklers. That is such a great episode title. So come back next week. Oh, I say next week. It's gonna be like 2 days. This would have been out so much earlier, but I got sick. I was actually bedridden Saturday. It was bad, and I have not really I didn't really get my voice back until like Monday, so I couldn't make videos. It was bad. It was really bad. But yeah, we the Rising Volt Tacklers. It is here. Yeah. So tune in a few days for when I do my overview of that. I am so excited. I cannot wait. So yeah, let me know what you all think about this episode. But yeah, tune in next week for that episode. It's going to be a good time. I'm so excited for it. So yeah, I'll see you later. I hope y'all enjoyed. Peace.